If God truly heals, why hasn't he healed me? That was the question a billionaire in a wheelchair screamed at the sky until a ragged little girl with nothing but a red spray bottle and unshakable faith walked into his life. What happened next was not science, not coincidence, but a battle between despair and belief, ending in a miracle no one could deny. Shin loi vesun ham lanjo. Toi jan sua lai va jam bao rang ban tiang an hoan tuang kong ko tiang viet. The billionaire's blight. When God's whisper broke the chains of despair. What if the ultimate test of faith isn't found in the grand gestures of prophets, but in the innocent touch of a child, revealing a miracle even a cynical billionaire couldn't deny? What if God isn't just listening, but waiting for us to finally stand up, not just on our feet, but in our hearts? Adrien Cole, a man whose name once echoed through the gilded halls of global finance, now found himself confined to a gilded cage of his own making. A catastrophic accident had stripped him not only of his physical prowess, but far more devastatingly, of his faith. His sprawling penthouse apartment, with its panoramic views of a city he once commanded, now felt like a mausoleum. Expensive medical equipment stood sentinel around his custom-built wheelchair, monuments to a war waged and lost. Every specialist, every cutting-edge therapy, every last-ditch effort had failed. He had long dismissed the concept of a divine being, seeing only the cold, unyielding hand of fate, or perhaps the cruel indifference of a silent universe. One bleak afternoon, as a relentless drizzle mirrored the gloom in his soul, Adrien was being wheeled through a less frequented park, a futile attempt by his exasperated staff to inject some semblance of life into his existence. His gaze was fixed on the blurred reflections of leafless trees and puddles, seeing only his own broken image. Suddenly, a small figure darted into his periphery. It was a girl no older than 8, her clothes threadbare but her eyes remarkably bright, like embers in the dusk. She carried a battered plastic bottle filled with a cloudy liquid. "Mister," a soft voice, surprisingly clear, cut through the hum of his electric wheelchair. "Your feet, they look like they're burning." Adrien merely scoffed, a bitter sound that had become his default response. And what would a child know of burning feet? Undaunted, the girl, Lily, stepped closer. She held up the bottle, her small hand trembling slightly. "My mama gets pain sometimes. She says a special spray helps. May I try?" Adrien stared at her, then at the bottle. He imagined the headline, "Billionaire Seeks Cure from Street Urchin's Concoction." The absurdity of it almost made him laugh. The best doctors in the world, child, with facilities that cost more than your entire life's earnings, have thrown up their hands. What makes you think a poor child with a homemade spray can do anything? His tone was laced with sarcasm, a defense mechanism against the persistent ache in his soul and the gnawing pain in his feet, which indeed felt like fiery coals. Lily didn't flinch. Her gaze remained steady, unwavering. "I'm not sure, sir," she said softly, her voice carrying an unexpected weight. "But Mama always says God teaches that nothing is impossible with him. If you believe just a little, please let me try." "Believe?" Adrien snorted. "Belief is for those who haven't seen the truth of a broken body." Yet something in her earnestness, her unshakable conviction, pricked at him. It was a faint whisper of a world he had long abandoned. Or perhaps It was simply the morbid curiosity of a man who had nothing left to lose. "Fine," he grumbled, extending a foot. "But don't expect miracles. There are no miracles, child, only wishful thinking." He watched. A perverse amusement flickered, expecting a rash, or at best, nothing. Lily knelt, her movements gentle. She uncapped the bottle and, with a silent prayer, carefully spritzed the liquid onto Adrien's lifeless toes. The coolness was immediate, but then something utterly impossible happened. A tiny twitch, a ripple beneath the skin. His smallest toe, a digit that had been utterly unresponsive for months, moved. Adrien gasped, a ragged sound that tore from his throat. He stared, mesmerized and horrified. Hope, a sensation he thought had been surgically removed from his psyche, surged through him, instantly followed by a wave of furious denial. What did you do?" he stammered, his voice hoarse. Lily, still kneeling, looked up, her eyes wide. I didn't do it, sir. God did. He's the one who woke up your nerves. I just did my small part." She clutched the bottle to her chest, a shield against the sudden intensity of his gaze. Adrien couldn't believe it. He tried to move the toe again, and this time, with conscious effort, he managed a slight, almost imperceptible wiggle. The world tilted on its axis. He felt a tremor not just in his foot, but deep within his chest, a spark of light in the cavern of his heart that he thought had been extinguished forever. The anger and disbelief wrestled with a terrifying, exhilarating possibility. "Get your mother," he commanded, his voice trembling. "Bring her to my estate tomorrow." The next day, Lily arrived at the imposing gates of Adrien Cole's estate, her small hand clasped in her mother's frail one. Mrs. Evans, Lily's mother, looked even more worn than her daughter, her face etched with the hardships of life, but her eyes held the same quiet strength as Lily's. Adrien, now back in his study, watched them enter, his usual cynicism replaced by a restless anticipation. He had spent a sleepless night, alternating between rational explanations and the terrifying, glorious whisper of a miracle. "Your mother needs care," Adrien stated, his voice unusually devoid of its customary arrogance. He gestured to his staff. "Ensure she has the best medical attention, warm clothes, and nutritious food. And you," he looked at Lily, "you will stay here too." It was the first time in months he had felt genuine compassion, a stirring of something beyond his own suffering. He summoned his personal physician, Dr. Aris, a renowned neurologist who had once pronounced Adrien's condition irreversible. "Examine my foot, doctor," Adrien ordered, his voice tight with a mixture of hope and fear. Dr. Aris, accustomed to Adrien's outburst, raised an eyebrow but complied. He performed a standard neurological test, his expression slowly shifting from professional detachment to utter bewilderment. "Mr. Cole, this is remarkable. There's undeniable nerve activity, minimal but present after months of complete dormancy. This is medically inexplicable." Adrien gripped the arms of his wheelchair, a mix of elation and fury churning within him. "Inexplicable?" he snarled, a flicker of his old self returning. "So I'm just miraculously better?" Lily, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. Her small voice was a gentle counterpoint to the doctor's bewildered pronouncements and Adrien's growing agitation. "God heard my mother's and my prayers," she whispered, her eyes meeting Adrien's. "Perhaps he heard yours too." Her words struck him like a physical blow. He had not prayed in decades. He had only cursed. Yet the possibility, the terrifying, beautiful possibility that a divine hand had reached into his darkest despair through the purest vessel of a child's faith, was beginning to take root. Adrien kept Lily and her mother at the estate. His grand mansion, once a lonely monument to his ego, began to feel like a sanctuary. He found himself drawn to Lily's unwavering belief, a stark contrast to his own hardened skepticism. He made a proposal. "Lily," he said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it, "I want you to help me. I want you to be the one who carries the flame of hope." Mrs. Evans, now recovering and looking healthier, offered a gentle smile. "If God used this child to stir your heart, Mr. Cole," she said, her voice weak but firm, "then you must embrace it. His ways are often mysterious, but always purposeful." And so began Adrien's arduous journey of rehabilitation. Daily physical therapy became a crucible, a battleground where his shattered pride and burgeoning hope clashed. There were countless failures. Muscles, atrophied from disuse, rebelled. Pain, sharp and relentless, became a constant companion. In moments of despair, he would lash out, his frustration a roaring inferno. "What kind of God," he would bellow, his voice echoing through the sterile therapy room, "would let me become a cripple like this? What kind of God would abandon me after I built an empire with my own 2 hands?" Lily, ever present, never argued. She would simply place her small hand on his custom-made spray bottle, a silent reminder of that first miraculous touch. "He has not abandoned you," she would say, her voice calm amidst his storm. "He is waiting for you to stand up, to know that strength does not lie in money, but in faith." Her words, so simple yet so profound, would silence him. They were not accusations, but gentle invitations. Gradually, the anger began to subside, replaced by a quiet determination. He focused, he persevered, each painful stretch, each agonizing attempt to move a limb, accompanied by Lily's silent presence and often a whispered prayer from her lips. He found himself, for the first time in years, listening to the small voice of faith, not scoffing at it. Weeks bled into months. The physical therapists, once skeptical, were now witnessing unprecedented progress. Adrien's legs, once useless appendages, were slowly regaining strength. The day came when he was strong enough to attempt walking with crutches. He chose the very spot where he had first met Lily, the lonely park pathway, now bathed in a hesitant spring sunlight. Supported by the crutches, his breath coming in ragged gasps, he pushed himself up. Each muscle screamed in protest, but a different kind of strength. One rooted in conviction propelled him forward, one step, then another. He felt the firm ground beneath his feet, a sensation he thought he would never experience again. Tears, hot and unbidden, streamed down his face. He wasn't just walking, he was being reborn. "I'm standing," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. I thought God had forgotten me." Lily, standing beside him, her face alight with a joyous, tearful smile, shook her head gently. "He never forgot. He was just waiting for the day you opened your heart." Adrien took more steps, unsteady at first, then gaining a fragile confidence. He was not just recovering physically, his soul, once withered and cynical, was blossoming. He realized then that the spray bottle was merely a catalyst. The true healing had come not from a concoction, but from the unwavering love of a child, the quiet faith of a mother, and the profound, patient grace of a God he had once so vehemently denied. The story concluded with Adrien Cole, not just standing tall on his own 2 feet, but standing tall with a heart brimming with gratitude and renewed faith. His empire, once his sole purpose, now served a greater one, funding medical research and establishing charities for those in need. Always with Lily by his side, a living testament to the power of a small prayer and an open heart. He understood now that true strength wasn't measured in wealth or power, but in the humility to accept help, the courage to believe, and the unwavering conviction that even in the darkest night,